All right, let's do this. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to another edition of your Farmer Cigar Garage Talks. How's everyone doing? I'm doing pretty good. It's a beautiful first or second Sunday of Lent. I'm sitting in my garage as the got the heaters going. Sun is shining. It's cold outside though, so it's taking a little bit to heat this place up. So what are we smoking? What are we drinking? This is an interesting one. So it's from Alec and Bradley. So it's not an Alec Bradley cigar, but Alec and Bradley Kinsinger cigar. I did look it up. What is Alex Bradley? No, Alex and Bradley there too. Aha, a little N symbol. That's the Japanese art form of fixing cracked pottery with gold. I'm sure you guys have seen some of the memes and stuff around that. Also kind of interesting, the cigar itself, when I went to go punch it, it actually cracked. Maybe it was on purpose, who knows. Kind of telling. And this cigar, I just grabbed out of my humidor at random. I couldn't pronounce the name, so I did a little research on it. Might actually be very appropriate for today's topic. Good cigar so far. The beer from Odd Side, Nutty by Nature, Imperial Brown Ale with hazelnut. Like I said, I've got a couple of Odd Sides actually in the mix today, or the mix this next month and a half. Oh, that is a good dark brown. Show it off here in a second. Good head on that. Oh, Odd Side, you're doing good. Keep it up. Dark beer, I like it. Okay. Little hint of hazelnut, not bad. It might get stronger once it sits for a second. A lot of these flavored beers, either they've got the first sip has all the flavor, or like halfway through has all the flavor. It's kind of weird. But tonight, you can kind of tell from the video topic, or the video title, we're gonna talk about Boy Scouts. So those of you that don't know, I was actually in Boy Scouts for most of my childhood. It was Boy Scouts. Girls were really not allowed. There were a handful of troops that would let girls join, but it was just a boys-only group. I absolutely loved it. I love learning odd and different things. Love the leadership component. Love the camping, the outdoorsmen, the self-sufficiency. I loved all that. Ate it up. I actually became an Eagle Scout. Got the highest honor. It was something for many years I was very proud of. I was very proud to call myself an Eagle Scout. And it's an accomplishment very few people are actually able to obtain. Because it is very difficult. It takes a lot of dedication, a lot of work, a lot of planning, actually, to make sure you get it done in time. Because you only have so long to actually complete your Eagle Scout before you're no longer eligible. Then about starting in 2012, going on, Boy Scouts started to make a lot of changes. A lot of them I personally did not agree with. I do not believe that Boy Scouts should allow girls in. And I've had many discussions and debates with people who were pro that, saying, well, one is good for numbers. Okay, but why are we losing boys? Maybe we should look at that first before we try to bring in girls. Then I had some girls who said, well, Girl Scouts doesn't allow us to do camping and archery and shooting and that really outdoorsy stuff. Okay, I get that. I understand that. Why don't you do that in your dens? Girl Scouts is modular, just like Boy Scouts. You can do more or less of an activity. You don't have to come into these male-orientated spaces. Because I was a firm believer, I still am a firm believer, men need a space to develop themselves from boys to men. We need a place where we can test our limits, learn about the vital skills it takes to develop a man, and be around other men so if we make failures, we're not judged by the opposite sex. I firmly believe that females should not be involved in Boy Scouts at any level, whether that's scout leaders, whether that's board members, administrators, every level should be staffed by a male so that men can be men around other men. You start introducing females, and all of a sudden there's taboo topics. There's things you just shouldn't do. Insert buzzword here. I mean, improprieties, social norms, all of it starts seeping in, and I'm completely against that. Again, as men, I believe every male needs a spot to be a space to be a male, to be a man, away from women. And we have almost none. There's almost no spaces left. Now, that's not to say that some of it's not a good thing, that some of these changes haven't been for the better to allow women into these spaces, but I do believe there should be one, especially for adolescent males developing their character. So there were many changes that happened in Boy Scouts. They changed their name to Scouts because they started to allow females in. They started to adopt some political views that I did not agree with. They started to dull down and dumb down the Eagle Scout. And one of the final straws for me was they used to say, do you believe in a higher power? Which meant, do you believe in God? Because one of them is to be reverent. Religious aspects are a very high regard in Scouts. Having religious service. A lot of churches sponsor Boy Scout troops. And they're like, well, we better dial that back. Because what if we have someone who is one of those other religions, New World religions? I don't agree with that. I believe that having a Judeo-Christian approach to Boy Scouts is just fine. I believe that having these boys attest that there is a greater authority than you. Greater authority than the president, a greater authority than anyone on earth. The creator of the universe, earth, and everything we know is quintessential. But all of a sudden I heard they're starting to let atheists become Eagle Scouts. They're starting to bend that religious requirement. I mean, that's really going against, your oath, for that matter. The oath and the pledge that the Boy Scouts had to repeat nonstop at every meeting, at every event and gathering. So, needless to say, I actually did not have my son join Scouts. None of my children have joined any of the Scout organizations because I don't believe in them. I don't believe they're fostering good, fostering the transition from child to good citizen, good adult. So that was my own personal view. I would share with people. A lot of people ask, well, as an Eagle Scout, why aren't your kids in Scouts? Because it's not the same. They have definitely dumbed it down, watered it down, and corrupted it. But what am I going to do? I don't really want to jump into the political realm of scouting to try and change that and whatnot. And there are a lot of other great institutions and organizations out there that are picking up the slack where Scouts drop the ball. In fact, there's one that Warrior Poet did a video about. I might be actually taking my son through. Or my sons. We take my sons through so they can have something. Because I do believe you need that evolution, that progression, those merit badges, those accomplishments for boys. I believe that actually builds their character and builds them up as individuals and gets them ready for life, because life is nothing but gathering more and more merit badges, in my opinion. So anyway, I didn't think much of it. One morning this last week, I was getting my coffee, kind of getting ready for the day. The morning is when I do a lot of doom scrolling, right? I just go on those shorts on YouTube, kind of just thumb through them real quick. Just something dumb to really kind of clear my mind and get myself kind of prepped for the next day. And all of a sudden, what's his name? It's the currently in charge of the Department of Defense or Department of War, I guess they're calling now. Buttigieg, is that his name? Anyhow, this person from the federal government who's in charge of the Department of Defense pops up and talks about how the last week he met with Boy Scouts. And I didn't know any of this was happening. I guess maybe I should have. But he was talking about how the Department of Defense was going to terminate their relationship with Boy Scouts. As you may or may not know, Boy Scouts was always considered and conceived as a paramilitary organization. There was a battle where this commander was outnumbered and outgunned, but he decided to try and use tactics to try and confuse the enemy. So he would have his men pretend to string barbed wire up, even though they didn't actually have barbed wire, but he knew you couldn't see barbed wire by binoculars. Worked great. The troops, the opposing force, instead of attacking where the barbed wire was, went to where they weren't stringing it, where they actually did have barbed wire. Cool, that worked. He had many of these little strategies, little tricks, but one of them he had the local boys at night, while the soldiers were sleeping, move the cannons from one area to another. And these boys worked very diligently throughout the night, very efficient, by randomly placing rifles and cannons and artillery in different positions. The next day, it made the opposing force realize, man, how many guns do they actually have? Last night we counted 10, and now tonight we're counting another 10 in a different spot. Is that 20? And the men are firing early in the morning. They would have been exhausted. They spent all night deploying them. That actually is what this commander actually went back to England and realized that the vital necessity of having boys ready to serve. And he started Boy Scouts. Boy Scouts eventually came to the United States, and almost from its inception had a very close relationship with the U.S. military. And I knew this. I knew that part of the story. But what I didn't know is that in the last year, that relationship has been on thin ice. Ooh, cigar's going out here a little bit. Makes complete sense why. President Trump has issued a number of executive orders, and his administration has really pointed toward the fact that they have a certain standard they want to uphold. And in their opinion, Boy Scouts, or Scouts as it's called today, is not upholding to that. So apparently they had a huge meeting with all the executives, tell them, hey, if you don't change your ways, we're going to kick you off every military base and sever our connection with you. If you don't know, many of the military branches, if you come in with your Eagle Scout, you get raised to an E2 rank. You get rank after basic training just for having your Eagle Scout. Because again, you are conditioned and prepared more so than the rest of the recruits coming in. There's a standard you've met. So they said that's all going to go on the wayside. We're going to get rid of the troops on bases, get rid of the Eagle Scout rank advantage, and a bunch of other stuff too, unless Scouts was willing to go back to a more traditional pre-2012 framework. Now, according to the video I watched, the Boy Scouts of America, Scouts, has agreed to do this. They've agreed to get rid of some of their questionable policies, some of their, having boys and girls have separate spaces. And I wish they would have just dropped the hammer and said that Scouts was a male-only organization, but, you can't win every battle. And try to take them back to their roots of being very much a Judeo-Christian organization, being an organization that prides themselves in developing the man, the boy, into a man. Now, I'm absolutely shocked. I know I shouldn't be with the current administration. A lot of big changes have been happening. So, where does that leave us? I don't know. Kind of as the director of the War Department or the Defense Department, whatever they're calling themselves now, said, trust but confirm, I think was his quote. Trust but verify. Trust but verify. So if they do go through and make these vital changes, yeah, I might be willing to have my sons join Scouts again. Because the model they did have, no. Not appropriate. It is not appropriate to have, boys and girls camping together. It's not appropriate to not have a religious relationship. While going through the scouting program, there's a lot of that stuff not okay. And I don't agree with, and I would never agree with. So time will tell. We'll see what happens. We'll see if they're able to get their heads out of the proverbial asses. And we'll see if they're actually able to come to a consensus of sanity, let's call it. Because again, Scouts is not what it was. I do not have respect for what it has drastically become. It has, in every regard I can say, gone against its origin, its founding, its purpose. So I hope, beyond hope, that that Scouts will be able to patch itself, right? To patch the cracks with gold and come out better, come out stronger on the other side, because it used to be this great institution that I firmly believed to be a great man you should be a part of. But who knows? Excuse me. Tobacco dust from poking it there. Hopefully they change. Hopefully they get better. I do really wish I could again wear my Boy Scout, Eagle Scout badge with honor. I used to have it on my resume. It used to mean something. People used to take note of it. Now they don't. Now it's, I think it's cost me some jobs, cost me some interviews. So hopefully we can do better. Hopefully Scouts can do better. Hopefully Scouts will eventually regain the Boy Scout mantra, because that's where we need to be. Building up men, not diluting them, not sharing spaces. Boys need a space to become strong men, and we can't do that with women around. I'm sorry. It's the truth. Boy, folks, I'm going to go enjoy my broken cigar. It's tasty. It's got a little issue because the cap broke there, but what are you going to do? Food for thought. If you're into Scouts, if you're not into Scouts, something to think about. I really do hope that they do better and they go back to their roots, because we need it in this country. We really do. We need strong men. Boy, folks, stay safe out there. See you in the next one.